What is going on, people of the internet? It's Mighty Pine back for the weekly analysis. It is October 29th, last couple of days of the month into the new month of November. You might notice that I added some cool waveform bars on the video. Hopefully they're not too distracting. If they are, let me know in the comments. If you want to learn more about how I do what I do so consistently and so accurately, join the free Discord link below this video. I drop stuff like weekly analysis, fundamental analysis, even a couple of trade breakdowns, some informational reels and short form content, so on and so forth. Anyways, let's just dive right into it. So, interesting past couple of weeks. We've seen lots of volatility, decent amount of volume, to be totally fair, but a lot of just sort of transitional sideways markets with big ranges. As of last week, however, the dollar pulled back pretty steeply, and then again, we see a bit of an overshoot here that ended up coming back into the top of the range, where we may be seeing another little bit of an overshoot situation here, which is what I have highlighted in blue. Ultimately, this red zone down here represents our daily demand. So this is the level where buyers sort of made their stand and said, we're here and we are in control. This is our current trend leg. If you wanted to take an arrow and put it from the bottom of that wick to the top of that, you would have your trend leg marked out. I'm not going to do that because I have some stuff on lower time frames that we'll take a peek at in a second. But ultimately, you are trading still within a bullish trend. Price has been going up for quite a while. We've now sort of entered this sort of secondary phase here after pushing upwards. So the question really is, within this, few weeks of sideways movement here, are we going to see a switch of intra-week flow? Are we going to see the daily start to put in lower highs and lower lows, indicating that we're getting a bearish trend, which would most likely be a retracement relative to this weekly bullish leg? Or are we going to see price kind of just enter this secondary accumulation phase, start to move sideways for a couple of weeks, and then start to trend higher past the previous trend high? We have a little bit of a pocket of supply you can see here, and that we've now been engaging with here, and it's sort of reestablishing itself. I believe that if price gets above this whole zone of supply here, that we should see a pretty momentous explosion to the upside. If that does happen, we can also anticipate that the Fed will add an additional rate hike into their cycle, because that means that inflation is continuing to increase hand over fist. So interesting little spot here that we're sitting in. We certainly want to pay attention to the details of how this all develops as we sort of get into it. But for right now, I'm still maintaining a bullish intraday bias. Now, with that being said, we are pretty damn ranged up. This could just be an overshoot of the previous range here. You notice that I kind of draw that back a little bit when it gets pierced. But this was the previous demand. Again, overshoot here, then price with tons of volume starts pushing upwards on optimistic economic news released from the US last week. So, key levels to watch, I think, for this bullish leg that we're currently sitting in are this H4 demand right here, where we can see price tap down into on Friday, then made a little bit of a jump back up. If price can get above this H1 or intraday supply right here, I think we'll come back in for a breaker bounce retest on the current flow high, which is also our H4 sort of continuation supply. If we can get above this and print a new flow high, something like this, then we can anticipate price will come back into that trend high supply area. If price goes above it, it's certainly a bullish Q, and we'll look for the rest of this zone to be liquidated as well. I think this is an important little break. However, price needs to maintain this current flow leg here. Price needs to stay above the daily demand in order to maintain an overall macro bullish bias. If price goes below 105, 350, approximately, if it goes below the previous lows here, then we need to start adjusting our bias to potentially much more bearish, and looking at a situation where we may be seeing a correction relative to those big higher time frames like the daily or the weekly charts. So for now, things that we want to watch are H4 demand breaker bounce here. We want to see how the market opens up this week and see if we get a break above this level here. If price does, again, major breaker bounce here around 106,860. You can see that I have some alerts set on both of these. I think that's a good idea. Overall, I will be maintaining a bullish bias on the dollar for this week. If price gets below the H4 demand, we may have a day where we get a deeper pullback back into this area, and then I will watch that very, very closely here as well. Unless price gets below this area of, again, 105,350 roughly, then I am looking to short GU, short AU, or EU, or whatever it might be. I think that as this continues to go upwards, we'll also see a continued downside pressure on Nasdaq or on Dow Jones or S&P, any of those domestic equities, especially because the VIX is high and there is some geopolitical tension that continues to bubble to the surface. So with that being said, long dollar positions means short euro, short GU, short AU. Let's start with Euro USD. This one looks a little funky. We can see that we had a very slight break of this major demand of liquidity. We want to watch any signs of bearish continuation past this level. So a little bit of a sign here, a little bit of a crack, but price immediately came right back into the range. This is acting as our daily demand at this point. When we go to look at the H4 chart, then we can see that we have this as our sort of dominant supply. If price gets above that, expect a deeper pullback or a push upwards. You could look to take a bullish move in this situation just because this is not a really significant break of that demand level. And it may just be a little bit of a flick overshoot. However, I would definitely confer with the DXY in this situation. If price stays below the H4 supply instead, and we see another transition to intraday, meaning H1 M30 bearish flow around one of the major market sessions, particularly starting at London and leading into New York of the first day or two this week, then I would anticipate further bearish movement and an extension past these flow lows to come and retest some of this liquidity, particularly somewhere around this area at 104.6 to 700 roughly. Anything below the previous trend low here, 104.4 and some change, is extremely bearish. So that's that. I would not really adjust my overall bias on EU unless price gets above 106.900 here, or the previous sort of daily supply region. GBPUSD, in my opinion, a little bit more bearish looking than Euro USD. We, in my live trading sessions, caught some excellent moves along the way down here. It's been really fun. It was good trading, honestly, the past week and a half after a pretty slow start to the month, which is really refreshing. Actually, let's go back to this. So ultimately, again, sort of ranged up here. We had a bit of a daily break of flow here, and now price is retesting those lows. But ultimately, what I'm concerned with is this current daily flow leg. When I start to look at this, here's my sort of key levels and call outs. I don't really have a bullish bias unless price gets above my daily supply here. I would not personally look to take this trade from H4 supply to the sort of top of the current flow leg. Simply because the UK economy is not doing super good. The US economy is being quite resilient, and DXY is looking to me like it wants to turn bullish. Now, if price does get above that H4 supply, I will sit on my hands and wait to see what happens up here. If price pierces up and then retests and shows us indications of strong and definite bullish flow on the intraday charts, then I will start to adjust my bias. However, until then, nothing. If price just comes up and retests this level, or we see some sort of intraday transition and flow starts to look definitively more bearish after London session Monday, then I'm going to just go ahead and continue my bias and try and short this thing down past trend lows and clear this zone of liquidity around 1.201xxxx. So looking at this as a key level for a retest, looking at this as a key level for a retest. If price goes above this, I will wait and see what happens. If price just continues to drop to start the week, looking for a price action order flow retest and continuation opportunity. Simple. AUDUSD, very, very similar situation. Go up to the daily. This is sort of acting as our daily and our H4 supply at this point. Price is very, 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 very ranged, but certainly just kind of slightly tilting downwards. We can see we have a series of new lows being printed here. This ultimately, from our daily and H4 supply to the wick low down here, is our current flow leg. Little bit of a note here for you. It looks like we're seeing a bit of an overshoot of that major previous supply level here, and you can see that price just continued to drop down. On Friday, we got a little bit of a pullback, but then price ended the week starting a new bearish flow on the H1, on the M30, so on and so forth. So price looks as though it is still holding a bearish bias. I personally am holding a bearish bias anywhere below the daily and H4 supply. If price comes back up and retests this area of supply up here, then I will certainly still be looking for confluence in the DXY, potential short opportunities. If instead we see price come below this level here and create a new break of flow, then we're just going to look for a break and retest style situation where we continue down past flow lows into this next liquidity zone around 0.622 and some change, roughly. So that's the play for the week. Again, balancing that with how the DXY is looking. Quick look at Nasdaq for all you Nasdaq heads. And here we go. So this is sort of our intra-week major supply region here. Sorry, loud car next door. Intra-week major supply region here. This is really sort of our current flow controlling supply zone. If price goes above this, anticipate a deeper pullback, look for a break or bounce within the 14,700 range. Ultimately, this is our trend. This is our current flow leg, the last major push here. I am anticipating a deeper correction on this, and I've been right for the past, I don't know, 2 months straight. So, you know, I'm not saying it's going to bounce specifically off of this level or that level, but I think price will stay below this high time frame major supply here, and we'll see some sort of bearish continuation this week. Now, if price gets above that high time frame major supply, we are definitely looking a lot more bullish. So wait for the intraday break and retest above it if that does happen, and look for a continuation upwards. I'm always a big fan of buying domestic equities because they are one of the most resilient things on earth. However, the VIX is up right now, meaning fear and greed index, the VIX, is very high. It's above 20. So money generally moves out of higher risk assets and into safer assets like gold, which is something that we're going to look at next. Money's flowing out of high risk assets and it's going into safe havens. So this thing is shedding value, and we're seeing repositioning, you know, potentially on the horizon as price gets into these more attractive areas. However, I don't know that it's done yet. So I'm just going to keep my finger on the pulse here and see what happens at this intraday level of supply. If price goes above that, we'll see what happens, break or bounce at the HTF high time frame major supply here. If price just cranks below the trend low, looking for a flow continuation, continue to ride it down. Last but not least, I just want to take a quick peek at gold. This is something that I haven't looked at for a few weeks here now on the channel. However, very, very, very accurate calls when we did look at it. I was talking to you guys as the geopolitical situation was developing in the Middle East and Ukraine and Russia and whatnot, and I said, okay, over here, we're looking for a potential bullish continuation. It's extremely bullish if we get above this. Look what happened. Huge push to the upside once we cracked that break and retest here. Big, 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 big push, and we have just continued to book it upwards. When we look at the H4 chart, I would say that this area here and this area here are two of them to watch for potential retests, and you are continuing to look for pushes up into this region here, mid 2000s. Now, once we get up into this area, there's a lot of known selling. So take some profits out, maybe not all of them, depending on if there's you know, some sort of resolution of geopolitical conflict, which I don't really anticipate. With that being said, just looking for some sort of flow continuation pullback, transition, and extension past previous flow highs. Anything above this, very bullish. Anything below 1950 is going to be a bearish correction in relation to this whole situation. And again, unless geopolitical tensions start to die down, I wouldn't anticipate some sort of trend reversal, simply a correction relative to higher time frames. So that's it, guys. Simple, powerful, high time frame price action. I've opened up my community, both my educational course and my Discord community, to VIP members. I share much more in-depth analysis there, which includes things like the exact key levels and zones that I'm targeting for each pair for the week. It's things like trade breakdowns. It's things like in-depth fundamental analysis. I offer direct coaching as well, access 24/5. I run daily live trading sessions, all that. So if you're interested, again, join the Discord. There's free version, there's VIP version. Up to you, no matter what. Hopefully you get some value out of it. And if you do, give this video a thumbs up. It helps me get more spread and help more people. Drop a comment, say what's up, and until next week, have fun, trade safe, Mighty Fine, out.